So the January transfer window is now in full swing, but who's one player from your club that you desperately need to keep hold of this January? Let's talk about it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Very interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this, but I'm sure we'll get some differing opinions in the comments down below. But if you could guarantee that you'll make it through January keeping hold of one player at your club, who would that be? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you do want to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. 250 likes would be appreciated. But without any further ado, let's hop into this one. Derby County, Christian Belic. Now, the Polish international might not have played for Derby so far this season, but having him to come back into this Derby side with the upwards momentum that they're showing at the moment would be an absolutely massive boost to this squad. Now, alongside being a fantastic player, he's also potentially Derby's most saleable asset, and despite being out with an injury for so long, he'll still be on the watch list for quite a few other clubs. But if Derby are to pull off the impossible this season, you'd think that Christian Belic could be at the centre of it. You know, coming back from this injury, he's one of, if not the best holding midfielders in the Championship when fully fit. He could still have a massive role to play at Derby this season. Barnsley, Bradley Collins, one of the few decent performers so far this season in this Barnsley squad. I'd have down as Bradley Collins. I felt a bit bad for him at times this season because in net for Barnsley, he's faced more shots on target than any other Championship goalkeeper with 121. He's made more saves than any other Championship goalkeeper with 87. He's saved 2 penalties this season as well with a couple of penalty saves. So he's done absolutely everything in his power so far this season to try and keep Barnsley within touching distance of the teams above them, and it's really about the other 10 players on the pitch to try and up their levels for the rest of the season. But yeah, in no doubts that Barnsley need to keep hold of him in January. Peterborough, Sariki Dembele, probably the obvious choice here. He's currently their top scorer with 5 league goals, got an assist to go along with that as well. But not just the goals and assists that he brings to this side, but the fact that he's one of the few players who's able to actually get Peterborough moving up the pitch. He's able to conjure up those moments from really nothing, and in the games where Peterborough have been on top and looking decent, particularly in some of their home matches, Dembele's always been the player at the centre of that. Reading, John Swift. There is no doubt in my mind that Reading will be seriously in trouble if they don't manage to keep hold of John Swift in January. They're in a little bit of an awkward situation with this one because his contract is expiring at the end of the season, but survival in the Championship this season is surely worth its weight in gold for Reading this season. He's been absolutely pivotal for them, scoring 8 goals whilst picking up 9 assists as well. He is the heartbeat of this Reading side, and I don't think they can afford to lose him. Cardiff, I'm going to go for Kiefer Moore. Cardiff have struggled for goals all season, really, and Kiefer Moore certainly hasn't been at his, optimum. He's only scored 5 goals himself so far this season, but he's only played 1,500 minutes for Cardiff in the Championship, which works out at around about sort of 1 goal every 3 or so matches. If anyone's capable of upping their levels a bit for Cardiff in the final third, then it's obviously him. Hull City, Jacob Greaves. I was between Greaves and Lewis Potter for this one, but I've just edged it towards Greaves. I think that during that unbeaten run that Hull recently went on, improving their stability at the back was absolutely crucial. Obviously, they went to that 3-man defence, but Greaves himself, I think, has adapted really well to this level so far this season, and if Hull are to keep their head above water in terms of not being sucked back into a relegation battle, it's all going to be about that defensive record. Goals will come here and there from the players that they already have, albeit they could probably do with another goal scorer in the squad. I just think that keeping hold of Greaves, he could be the guy to sort of hold that defence together. Birmingham, probably Neil Etheridge now, to be honest with you. I think that coming into January, Birmingham might have had some plans to offload the goalkeeper, but with their situation now with Sarkic picking up that injury with the dislocated shoulder and him out for the foreseeable future and returning to Wolves for treatment for the time being, they're probably in need of keeping hold of Etheridge now, an experienced goalkeeper who they can throw back in there. Swansea, fairly obvious one, but we will be going for JoelPerrault. He scored 42% of Swansea's goals so far this season in the league with 11, 4 assists to go along with that as well. Swansea on the whole have struggled at times to open up sort of clear-cut opportunities, and at times it's fallen on JoelPerrault to score from sort of unlikely angles. Him alongside Jamie Patterson have really carried the goal-scoring burden at Swansea so far this season, but there have been some murmurs in terms of potentially some Premier League clubs after him, but absolutely crucial that Swansea keep him for the season. Luton Town, it's a similar story. We'll be going for Elijah Adebayo. His goals to minutes ratio has been really impressive in the Championship so far this season. He's averaged a goal every 165 minutes with 10 goals for Luton so far this season. Get him fully fit and firing for the second half of the season, and who knows where Luton might finish. Bristol City, of course, we're going for Andy Weimann. He scored 40% of their league goals so far this season with 12 goals, got 4 assists to go along with that as well. Bristol City at times have been a little bit limp in the final third, but Weimann's always that guy who you can bank on having a moment of magic, coming up with a couple of goals or a hat-trick, as was the case at the weekend. I would also throw Hando Masengo in there, although I do think there is the possibility that he could be leaving in January if the right bid comes in. But yeah, for me, Andy Weimann, absolute must to keep hold of. Preston North End, Patrick Bauer. Our defence with and without Bauer so far this season has been absolutely day and night. It's been such a contrast with and without him in the back line. He's out of contract at the end of the season as well, and so if we're not able to tie him down, there is a possibility that he leaves in January should a bid come in. I hope to God that that's not the case. He's been a brilliant player since coming in at North End, albeit at times has been in and out of the squad with injuries, but a fully fit Patrick Bauer would be really hard for us to replace. Sheffield United, Morgan Gibbs-White. Now I know that he's not actually their player, but as we've seen in the Championship over the last few days, parent clubs have been recalling players left, right and centre, you know, loaning them out to other teams, or in some cases just keeping them for themselves. Gibbs-White himself is currently out with an injury. He is back at Wolves at the moment to go ahead and assess that. Hopefully he's not going to be out for all too long, but in terms of a promotion push in the second half of the season, Gibbs-White will be absolutely at the centre of that. 5 goals, 4 assists for him so far this season. He's been without a doubt their most creative outlet. Blackpool, Keshi Anderson. We'll speak about this one on a future transfer rumour roundup video, but he has been linked to a few Championship clubs already, and it's understandable to see why. Blackpool play in quite a rigid way to break down, you know, that 4-4-2 they set up quite solidly, but what they are reliant on is their wide players coming up with moments of magic, and Keshi Anderson has done just that so far this season. 4 goals, 4 assists, but even that doesn't paint the picture of just how influential he's actually been at times for Blackpool, and if they were to lose him, that'd be really hard to replicate his creativity and what he actually brings to this Blackpool side. Millwall, Jed Wallace. Now, while he may not have been at his sparkling best over the last month or so, he's still been their most creative player, and when you're looking for a moment out of nothing, you're always going to bank on Jed Wallace, you know, popping up more so than anyone else in that Millwall squad. 5 goals and 6 assists for Wallace so far this season. They're in a bit of an awkward situation with his current contract, which runs out at the end of the season, so Millwall are now left in the situation where a tempting bid, should it come in, they may be forced to sell. But if Millwall want to have any sort of outside hopes of sneaking into the top 6, a fully fit and firing Jed Wallace would no doubt be at the centre of that. Coventry City, Gustavo Hamer. Now, something in me does say that if a bid comes in for Hamer in this January, I've just got it in my mind that he could be off sooner rather than later, but maybe that's just me jumping to conclusions. In terms of replacing him, I think that would be where Coventry really find the difficulty, because not just within this Coventry squad, but looking elsewhere in the league really, there's no one else quite like Gustavo Hamer, if you know what I mean. Nottingham Forest, Jed Spencer. Now, there is the potential that Nottingham Forest turn this loan deal into a permanent in January, and that would be absolutely massive news for Forest fans, because what they can't allow to happen is, for whatever reason, Middlesbrough decide to recall Jed Spencer, and then they'd really be left in it, because I think that in terms of what we've seen from this Forest side under Cooper so far, in terms of the most integral positions on the pitch, have probably been those 2 wing backs. You know, in that game against Middlesbrough, when they were lacking depth at both right and left wing back, they really struggled to get out and up and down the pitch, and Spence alongside, you know, whoever's played on that left hand side, side Tutu or Max Lowe, have been absolutely pivotal to the game plan. Stoke City, I think we're going to have to go for Mario Varanchich here. Stoke have really stumbled lately, and they've hit a bit of a block in their season in terms of all the injuries that they've had recently have sort of caught up with them. If they're going to find any way out of the hole they're currently in terms of that form, Mario Varanchich, I think, will be central to that. From midfield, he's been their best outlet so far this season. 3 goals, 5 assists in terms of creativity and actually getting on the ball and making things happen in the final third. Middlesbrough, Isaiah Jones, probably now one of the most important positions on the pitch, is having good wing backs, and so far we've seen Isaiah Jones this season really develop into a top right wing back, certainly under the guidance of Chris Wilder, who we all know likes a wing back or two. 1 goal, 5 assists. He's only 22 years old, so I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some interest coming in for Jones, but yeah, it's absolutely crucial that Middlesbrough keep hold of him. And for Huddersfield, I'm going for a similar vein of thinking. We're going for Sorba Thomas. He's been absolutely terrific. The fact that they picked him up from non-league and he's been this good in his first full championship season, it's been absolutely brilliant to see. 3 goals, 8 assists so far this season. I think from some of the early flashes that we saw of Sorba Thomas at Huddersfield, everyone knew that he'd be quite the player this season, but probably not quite as influential as he's gone on to be for Huddersfield as the season's developed. A real outlet on that right hand side, brilliant delivery into the box, and has shown this season that he's got an end product. QPR, I'm going to say Chris Willock. With Chair recently picking up that injury and him now going off to the African Cup of Nations, I think that more of a reliance is now going to be placed on the shoulders of Chris Willock to be that real creative hub at QPR. You know, so far this season he's probably shared that burden with Chair, but I think that if QPR are to make it into the top 6 come the end of the season, Willock's going to have a real role to play. Only 23 as well. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some clubs come sniffing around him. That goal he scored at the weekend against Birmingham was an absolute joke in terms of technique. 6 goals, 4 assists so far this season. I still think there's more to come from him as well. West Brom, Connor Townsend. The 2 assists that he's got so far this season doesn't really do him justice in terms of how much of a creative outlet he's actually been for this West Brom side. For West Brom, he leads in key passes this season. He's also right up there in terms of the rest of the championship as well. And if West Brom had a forward who could actually finish, maybe they do now that they've got Daryl Dike on their hands, Townsend's assist would absolutely fly up. And like we were mentioning before with Isaiah Jones and Jed Spencer, that reliance now on wing backs in the championship is really quite something, and Townsend so far this season has certainly been a top left wing back. Fulham, of course, we're going for Mitrovic. I mean, this guy has single-handedly outscored 3 championship clubs so far this season, which is an absolute joke. 22 goals in 22 appearances, as well as 5 assists to go along with that. If Fulham or to win the championship this season, which I am backing them to do at the moment, Mitrovic is going to have to stay in January. And we've already seen a few sort of murmurs about some Premier League clubs potentially being interested in him, and you understand to see why with his current goals ratio. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that if Fulham want top 2, they need Mitrovic. Blackburn Rovers, of course, we were going for Ben Brereton Diaz. Everything that I've just said there for Mitrovic pretty much completely applies to Ben Brereton as well. Now, of course, Blackburn are in a slightly different situation when it comes to Brereton and when it comes to Mitrovic because of finances and things like that, the potential sell-on that Brereton could be, and the money actually coming into the club could be absolutely massive, and they may be forced with, you know, the hand might be forced when an offer comes in that's too good to turn down. But if Blackburn are serious about promotion this season, there's just no way they can afford to let him go. Finishing it off with Bournemouth, I'm going to go for Philip Billing, not their star striker. I could have gone for Dom Solanke, who's been fantastic this season, scoring 18 goals, but I think that Billing has such an integral role in this Bournemouth side that if they were to lose him in January, everything could sort of come tumbling down. I think that he's been absolutely brilliant for them. He scored 7 goals and got 5 assists, but that doesn't really do him justice of how crucial he's actually been at times for Bournemouth. We all know that in a Scott Parker side, midfield is probably the most important aspect of it. I think that Billing's adapted really well to that so far this season. We've seen in the past Premier League clubs being linked to Billing, but yeah, there's no way Bournemouth can afford to lose him at this stage. But guys, there we have it. There was every championship club and one player for me who I think they absolutely need to keep hold of in this January window. Do you agree with my selections? Let me know in the comments down below. Who for you would be one player from your club that you're desperate to keep hold of in January? Let me know about them in the comments down below. But apart from that, that'll wrap it up for today's video. If you went on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. Thanks for watching though, guys. I'll see you all in the next one.